Camera running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Slate 1, take 1. Slate 2, take 1. Carry on, Harry. Action, John.
Mr. Bryant, how long has this mill been in your family?
Well, ever since 1885, that's when my grandfather came here and took it over then. And it's been in my father took it over behind grandfather, and I behind my father, and then I hope my son will carry on with it behind me.
Have you any idea when the mill was built?
Well, we've got no actual date, but I think she was built about in the early 1800s.
I understand the National Trust and the County Council have given you a grant to preserve this mill. Why?
Well, if the money hadn't been forthcoming, well, the mill would have to have been dismantled and stop working as a windmill, you see, and they're anxious to retain her as a landmark, I suppose from a picturesque point of view as well. And
Thank you. Cut. How was that the end for you? Slate 2, take 2. Action, John.
Mr. Bryant, how long has this mill been in your family?
Can I cut it, please? Yep. Wrong position. Wrong
Yeah.
position. Turning. Action, John.
Mr. Bryant, how long has this mill been in your family?
well, she's been in our family since 1885, when my grandfather came here from Troston, a nearby village, and took her over, and my father took her over behind grandfather in 1921, and I hired the mill off father in 1929. And now I've got one son who is interested very much in the business, and I hope he'll carry it on behind me.
Have you any idea how old the mill is?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer because we've got no actual date, not even on our deed, not even on the deeds of the property.
It's not mentioned on the deeds at all?
No, not the erection of the mill, but I should imagine that she was built in the early 1800s.
Now, I understand the National Trust and the County Council have given you a grant to preserve this mill. Why?
Well, if that hadn't been done so, the cost of repairs would have been so great that we shouldn't have been able to have them done, and the mill would have, in all probability, we have to had her dismantled and stood still.
Cut.
Right, how's that for you, Ian?
Okay. Slate 3, take 1.
Running. Ask Bert not to drive for a minute. Off you go, John.
Mr. Bryant, I understand you received a grant from the National Trust and the County Council to preserve this old mill. Why?
Well, in the first instance, the County Council are very interested in keeping the mill as a going concern, if possible. But you see, if this grant hadn't been forthcoming, with the modern machinery today, a windmill cannot compete against it, and consequently, as a business proposition, well, she'd have been no good, and we had to dismantle her, and of course, she just stood still.
Tell me, who are you grinding corn for today, then?
Well, we're still doing some corn for different farmers, but we grind, of course, the principal part of the work we do now is done with a hammer mill and driven by electric motor, and that is used for compounding pig meals, poultry mashes, and so on.
Surely this windmill must be unique in East Anglia at least. Do you know of any others that still grind corn?
No, I don't think that. I don't think there is another mill left in East Anglia now. I don't think so. Not now.
Tell me, are there any conditions attached to this grant?
Well, they've made one or two clauses in the well, so far as conditions go, that we let the public come and look in the mill and so on, and also that we look after it and use it as much as we can. But for some number of years now, the public have been coming and going, a lot of them, especially in the summertime.
Will the mill still remain your own property?
Oh yes, yes.
Well, Mr. Bryant, I hope that there will be another 3 generations of Bryants looking after this lovely old windmill.
Well, we hope so.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Cat.
The sheet's coming off. Are you running?
Yeah, right.
Slate 4, take 1.
Mr. Bryant, I understand you received a grant from the National Trust and the County Council to preserve this old mill. Why?
Mr. Bryant, I understand you received a grant from the National Trust and the County Council to preserve this old mill. Why?
Tell me, who are you grinding corn for today?
Tell me, who are you grinding corn for today, then?
Surely this windmill must be unique in East Anglia at least. Do you know of any others that still grind corn?
Surely this windmill must be unique in East Anglia. Do you know of any others still grinding corn?
Tell me, are there any conditions attached to this grant?
Tell me, are there any conditions attached to this grant?
Will the mill still remain your own property?
Well, will the mill still remain your own property? Will the mill still remain your own property?
Well, Mr. Bryant, I hope that there will be another 3 generations of Bryants looking after this lovely old mill.
Well, Mr. Bryant, I hope there'll be another 3 generations of your family looking after this lovely old mill. Thank you.
Cat.